Last week we concluded the Mordheim board renovation, so we're going to put this project away. I found a reference photo on Instagram and it led me kind of on a rabbit hole of investigating this castle. So I've made a line art, basically a template, and I use that for parts of it, and then I also found a top-down view of this castle, which gave me the floor plan. So between the three of these photos, I was able to create something that resembles it roughly. For the towers, I'm using some foam cups that I got from the Dollar Tree. These actually turned out really good. I'll show you more in detail, but there was a lot of this I had to kind of build from scratch without a template. And this is something I do pretty often. If you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll answer. There's also a Discord if you need a little more conversation to get through it. There's a lot of people on there to help out as well. For that 3D book nook section, what I did was I cut out each window and then I did two straight cuts. I bent them at 30-degree angles and I filled those gaps with hot glue, which made it pretty rigid. I know I provide a lot of templates, but it's a really good skill to learn how to build things from scratch on your own. So if you haven't tried that, printing out a reference photo and just seeing what you come up with is really great. The really nice thing about a template is just to have reference for window heights and the sizes of doors and stuff like that. But a template just kind of standardizes some things, and it helps me out a lot with that. So that's the reason I'm using multiple templates. One is for the basic shape, one is for window reference and stuff like that. One really great thing about these towers was I used the bottom halves together to make one tower, and then I used the top halves for the other one. And the size difference really helped sell the fact that they weren't just plastic cups. Having the repeated shape just copy pasted along in one build will definitely break the immersion of it, in my opinion. So having those two separate items, one big, one small, really sells the fact that they're different and they're not manufactured. So that's something that I think is really necessary for something like this. I had the pink layer with craft EVA foam just to separate the top and bottom levels. And now I'm just using the same pink EVA foam to cut out brick shapes to add a raised level for when we plaster everything with some Spackle Mod Podge mix. This just gives a raised surface for the palette knife, just to smooth off the bricks, and then it doesn't really matter how well you stick it to the surface, as long as the glue is dry. The Spackle should fix every loose corner of these bricks to the model relatively well. It doesn't really matter all that much because everything is a little rounded over with the Spackle mix anyway. This was probably the most tedious process, but it did pay off. So looking back on it, it was well worth spending some extra time making sure everything was square and looked pretty good. I probably should have spent a little more time, if anything. I'd like to take a quick second to thank my Patreon members, Leroy, Moonbad, Feder, and Caracal. Thank you guys so much. If you're not a Patreon member, everything on Patreon is still free. It's a valuable resource, I think, and if you think so too, and you can spare $2 a month, feel free to join. Other ways you can support the channel is just subscribe. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing to me. You guys unlocked a 1,000 subscriber t-shirt. Another way you can support the channel is there's some merch links below. So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you. For the Spackle, we're using some dollar store Spackle with brown paint and Mod Podge hard coat. I would assume regular Mod Podge works fine too, but that's what really grabs on as like the glue for this. So I think it's pretty necessary. I started with a palette knife for the flat surfaces, and when I got to the curved areas, it just was so much easier to go with a brush. So I just transitioned over to the brush for everything. And then at the end of it, I used the palette knife to kind of clean off the bricks just to kind of finish things off. Okay, so for the roofs, it's hard to make a cone pattern. So the way to do it is to make the height of the cone the radius, and then I used a foam cup to make the outside radius for the curve. Basically, you just hot glue it up, and then I go in and cut it apart, and then I use some balsa wood, like coffee stir sticks or whatever, and reinforce those cut up parts. I also pull apart the outer edge to kind of give it a swoop pattern, and I think that turned out pretty good. It was a little subtle after I put on everything, but I do think it added up to a better result rather than it being a straight cone. I'm using some paper straws for some chimneys, and then I made another chimney for a different part that I forgot about, and I wanted to make sure I put that detail in there. Bending the coffee stir stick, and it cracks a couple times. So now we're going to be doing the shingles. So I got a scallop scissor, a scallop pattern scissor, and I think it's for like tailoring or whatever, but it worked really great for shingles. All I had to do after cutting just a straight line with the scallop scissors was separate each shingle just a little bit, and that was able to get it across that curve. These shingles were the fastest I've ever done a shingling job. It's a cone, so it's not that many, but it is a kind of a complicated shape. Put the hot glue on the top edge of the top shingle, and then just try to lay the shingle midway through. The nice thing about the scalloped edge was the top edge didn't look unfinished if it was exposed. It looked like how a shingle might look if it was curved. I thought this turned out pretty good. They did end up looking kind of like Christmas trees, but I think that was a sacrifice I was willing to make. Now we're just gonna add some like second levels, and this is just with balsa wood or basswood. I can't remember. It was a while ago when I bought this pack. And then I bought some coffee stir sticks with square edges. That way I don't have to cut off that rounded edge every time. Man, that makes it so much faster. So I'm doing some more shingling. Whenever I do a tedious part of a job, I always kind of transition to a different part and kind of move around, and that just helps it get it finished a little quicker. Keeps my mind a little more interested. So I hot glued those tops on, and then I primed everything in a dark brown. Now we're gonna take some white paint and black just to make a gray paint. And I have a fan brush that's really great for dry brushing. It came with a Five Below paint set or paintbrush set, and it's kind of my favorite dry brushing brush right now because it holds a lot of paint and it just like leaves the perfect amount of paint on top of this spackle. So that was kind of nice. And painting the gray walls over the brown, just kind of that brown laid such a great texture of grime. And then just going in with a gold for the wood textures. And then I made a brown wash, you can see right here, with just some water and brown paint. And I just stained everything with that brown wash. And this is all just dollar store paint. I think I used a white army painter paint because it was just a little, the white dollar store paint was just a little metallic for my taste. But overall, this is all dollar store paint and it turned out looking really great. So I think I might be using some more of that later.
All right, so this thing turned out really great. The shingles on this thing were the fastest shingles I've done so far. Those scallop scissors they're for tailoring and stuff like that, but they really knocked this out of the park. So if you're in the market for fast shingles, this is definitely one of the best ways to go. And the styrofoam cup turned out pretty good too. So this was kind of a win. If you're not following the channel, if you're new to the channel from this video, thank you for watching. There's a whole backlog. I've been doing this for 10 months and I've been doing a video every week. So feel free to subscribe. Speaking of subscribing, we just hit 1,000 subscribers, which is insanity. So thank you, every single one of you. I really can't, there's not enough gratitude. If you would like to support the channel, there's a Patreon where you can download these templates for free. Everything is free on Patreon because of Leroy, Moonbad, Feder, and Caracal. So thank you so much to those guys. It's only $2 a month if you're interested. Speaking of the 1,000 subscribers, I designed a new t-shirt. The design is Baba Yaga's hut with spider legs for Monster Bash 3. If you've been following the channel along, you might have seen it in a couple videos, but it's the build that really set me off on this journey. And so to kind of memorialize this moment, I'm memorializing that moment, which is maybe a little off, but I figured that would be better than saying 1,000 subscribers and selling that t-shirt. So I'm blown away. You guys are so nice in every comment. Discord is so motivating. Really, thank you so much.